This is called Vocation Weekend, and I thought a lot about, what to say. I always do. And I decided that maybe if I just told you my own story of being a priest, how it came to be, it might sound self-centered. It is. And it might be persuasive. You never know. But what I also need to say for all of it, every one of us is called. You know that. A vocation is called. Now, if you have a dog and you call out the back door and you call him by name, he comes running. So listen for God's voice in your life. It isn't as though it just happens, once when you're young and then you make a decision, although sometimes that's it, as in marriage and the priesthood, for the most part. But we're all called to be members of the body of Christ, so that this gospel that I just read, so profound, it's everything. It's everything we need, everything we want. We're safe. We're safe with him. And so he just wanted everybody to know that. And so in the first reading, we have the troubled people trying to tell that story. Were they just, had Jesus come just for the Jews? No, he had come for the Gentiles and everybody. So that's the message. Welcome to the good news. I am going to tell this story, and I hope as a result that you also will turn off your technical stuff around you and talk to each other about your story. I mean, it's a shame if you raise a family, they don't even know what your story is. All the stories, that's what eating together is about. That's what gathering together. Did I tell you what happened then? This is how my father was. This is how my childhood was. We all have the stories. So, and everybody likes a story. Tell me a story. Well, once upon a time, there was a little baby boy born in Canton, Ohio, February 2nd, 1925, the fourth child in less than 5 years of marriage. My parents were prolific. And so sometimes I feel I was not planned. I just a little. But it works out because God has his ways and wanted all of us to be here. We wouldn't be here, however it begins. So anyway, I'm going to tell my story of how the priesthood has been my calling. There is a saying that someone told me over lunch the other day, well, enough about me. What do you think about me? And so this is pretty self-centered. Well, my home was in Canton, Ohio, and it was very strict. And we lived with my German grandmother, descent. She was born here, but very strict. The Germans are strict. And very religious, very religious. We said the rosary every day. All through our life, we always said the rosary. And I remember being stunned when I was ordained that I talked to people about saying the family rosary. I couldn't believe they would say, well, our kids don't want to do it. Who's in charge here? That's what family life is, because if you're going to take anything from this homily, it's that the faith is from the home, not send them off for $10,000 a year, $50,000 a year to some university. That's all right, but it's in the home. That's where faith begins. That's where vocations begin on all levels. So I hope you believe that. So I didn't have the happiest home, but I had a very, we were Benedictines. It was ora et labora. That means pray and work. Work and pray and work. And that's what we did. So we all learned that. But it's just breathing in the idea of God and of Mary in our life. As a little child, when I got to the first grade in Butler, Pennsylvania, where we moved, I knew all the prayers because I had learned them kneeling on my knees in our living room at home. Some of the others, the Litany of Loretto, Memorare, some of these hard ones, morning offering, act of contrition, we did it all at home. And so I hope you get that message. That's where it is, folks, and it's not too late to start. Anyway, at school, of course, it was a Catholic school, and there was a nun in every room, and they were certainly mysterious. And then I remember all the priests. I remember their names, you know, Father Thomas, Father Weisenberger, Father Ziwi, Father Whitcomb, you know, they were all part of it. But you never saw them outside, you know, without a collar or anything like that, or a nun like this. And so that was the atmosphere. And I remember a sister would always ask about, let's say, about the 3rd grade. Now, how many of you are going to be priests in here? Every hand. How many are going to be nuns? Every hand. About the 5th grade, there weren't so many. About the 7th grade, you weren't going to do it, but you thought, if I want to go to the 8th grade, I better put my hand up. So, do it again. So we knew how to grease the apple, or whatever that is. So, you know, I went to a public high school, didn't go to a, there was no such thing. We did not have PSR or anything like that. You just had to live by the faith you had learned at home and in school. I had a wonderful high school. It was co-ed, co-ed, co-ed. And I enjoyed every day of it. And it was public. And I remember we were not even supposed to attend chapel because they sang Protestant songs there. But anyway, we finally did do that. So after that, and I barely got through high school because I was having more fun than learning much. And so for all you dumbbells, it's okay. You can still get ahead. I wrote the book Priesthood for Dummies, and so, or I should have. So then I went to Second World War, 2 weeks after graduation from high school, World War II, 1943. They put me in the Army, and I was in there about 3 years. I never would miss Mass. In war, in Europe, or here, I just wouldn't miss Mass. You just wouldn't miss Mass. And so anyway, when the war was over and they were mustering us out, I remember so very well when I think I got the call, not in any spectacular way, but I loved to go to the chapels to pray. And you never think you're any different than other people, but I remember being in the chapel at Fort Harrison, Indiana, and praying in there alone, because I always believe full-heartedly that Christ is there. He's there in that tabernacle. So I talked to him, and I said, well, I'm 21, and what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I was walking out of that chapel, and in the little book rack, pamphlet rack, there was this pamphlet that said, can you do this? And so I picked it up and sent in to get information about being a brother, a religious brother. I didn't think I could be a priest. I wasn't, you know, how could you do this? How could you do this? No way I could do that. But God has his own way. He says, I have chosen you. You have not chosen me. So all the contriving, you know, to get everybody to think about vocation, it's all right, but it's deeper than that in my experience anyway. So no one helped me to get to the seminary. I was in a new town, Akron, didn't know anybody. The priest down there just said, well, try John Carroll or something like that. So I started hitchhiking around to find out where I could go to a seminary. That's all I knew. And I went down to Kentucky, up to Canada, and so I'm hitchhiking to see if anybody wants me. And also my father was no help. He said, if you're ever ordained, I'll be the next pope. But he didn't know what a catalyst he was. I thought, how cool. You know, I have my daddy in Rome as the pope. And so, so it all works together. Anyway,